On the morning of December 31st, 2000, Tokyo was preparing for the new year. Families were cleaning their homes, buying food, visiting relatives, and getting ready to close out the year 2000. But in one quiet neighborhood in Setagaya, inside a family home near Soshigaya Park, the stillness of that morning was hiding something horrifying. From the street, nothing looked unusual. There was no crowd outside, no obvious sign of a break-in from the front, and nothing that warned anyone an entire family had lost their lives inside. Yasuko Miyazawa's mother lived right next door, and that morning she started to worry. She had been trying to reach her daughter's family, but no one was answering. The phone line was not working properly, and with every failed attempt, the concern grew stronger. So she walked over. It should have been an ordinary walk, only a few steps to the house next door, the kind of routine check a mother makes when something feels wrong. But when she stepped inside, she entered a scene that would haunt Japan for decades. Her daughter, Yasuko Miyazawa, her son-in-law, Mikio Miyazawa, her 8-year-old granddaughter, Nina, and her 6-year-old grandson, Ray, were all gone. An entire family had lost their lives inside their own home. But what made this case even more disturbing was not only the violence, it was what happened afterward. The person responsible did not immediately run away. They stayed inside the house. They moved through the rooms, went through the family's belongings, even used the bathroom, ate food from the kitchen, and used the family's computer. And when they finally left, they left behind the kind of evidence investigators usually hope for: clothing, a weapon, blood, fingerprints, DNA, footprints, and biological evidence linked to them. Police had a mountain of evidence. In many cases, evidence like that would be enough to lead investigators straight to a suspect. But more than 2 decades later, they still do not know the killer's name. This is the case of the Setagaya family murders, a case where the killer left evidence everywhere, but still disappeared without a name. Before their names became tied to one of Japan's most unsettling unsolved cases, the Miyazawas were simply a family living their everyday life. They lived in Kami Soshigaya in Tokyo's Setagaya ward, near Soshigaya Park and the Senkawa River. On the surface, it sounded peaceful. A home near a park, 2 young children, and an ordinary family neighborhood inside one of the largest cities in the world. But by the year 2000, the area around their house had changed. The neighborhood was being cleared for park expansion, and many homes nearby had already been removed. What used to be a more ordinary residential area had started to feel emptier, more open, and more isolated. Only a few houses were still standing, and the Miyazawa home was one of them. Inside lived 44-year-old Mikio Miyazawa, his wife 41-year-old Yasuko, and their 2 children. Mikio worked for a foreign-affiliated company and was involved in corporate identity and branding. From the outside, he seemed like a hard-working father, someone who brought work home, checked emails late at night, and tried to provide a good life for his family. Yasuko also worked from home. She ran a cram school helping children with their studies, so the house was not only where the family lived, it was also where Yasuko taught, where students came to learn, and where ordinary routines played out: homework, dinner, music practice, and the small daily moments that make a home feel alive. Their daughter, Nina, was 8 years old. She was in 2nd grade and loved ballet and piano. Their son, Ray, was only 6 and was still in kindergarten. This is what makes this case so painful. The Miyazawas were not public figures. They were not people who expected danger to come through their door. They were a normal family preparing for a new year, and by the next morning, their lives will be taken. On December 30th, 2000, the Miyazawa family spent the day like many families do before a major holiday. They reportedly went shopping near Chitose Karasuyama Station, likely picking up food, running errands, or preparing for New Year's. To Nina and Ray, it may have felt like the start of a holiday break. To their parents, it was probably another busy day of planning, preparing, and keeping the household moving. Later that evening, the family returned home. They had dinner, they watched television. Nothing about the night seemed to warn them that danger was nearby. At around 10:38 p.m., Mikio opened a password-protected work email. That small digital moment matters because it tells us that at 10:38 p.m., Mikio was still alive. The household was still functioning. Life inside the home still appeared normal. A father checking work, a mother at home, and 2 children safely inside. Sometime after that, someone entered the house. To this day, one of the biggest questions is exactly how the killer got in. Some reports have suggested a possible entry through an upper bathroom window, while other discussions question whether the person entered another way. But however they got inside, the result was the same. A person was now inside the home, and within hours, every member of the family would be dead. There is something especially frightening about home invasion cases because they destroy the idea of safety. A home is supposed to be the place where you can close the door and rest. For children, it is supposed to be the safest place in the world. But on that night, the Miyazawa home became the opposite. It became a crime scene. The exact order of the murders has never been completely settled publicly, but many accounts suggested that the youngest child, Ray, may have been killed first. He was only 6 years old, and he was reportedly strangled. Ray's cause of death was different from the others. Investigators determined that Ray died from strangulation, while Mikio, Yasuko, and Nina were fatally attacked with a knife. That detail changes the entire feeling of the case because it suggests the killer did not attack every victim in the exact same way. This part is especially difficult because it shows the attack was close and deliberate, not just a chaotic moment from a distance. After that, it is believed or speculated that Mikio was attacked next. Police believe Mikio fought back, and during that struggle, the killer was injured badly enough to leave their own blood behind at the scene. That single detail tells us the attack did not go cleanly. Whoever entered the house may have been prepared to commit violence, but Mikio resisted. The killer bled and the crime scene became messy. At some point, Yasuko and Nina were also attacked and killed. Both were fatally attacked with a knife, and the severity of the crime is one of the reasons people still question the motive. If this was only about stealing money, then the violence raises questions that still sit at the center of the case. Why attack the entire family? Why were the children harmed? Why would a possible robbery turn into the loss of 4 lives? Those questions have never been fully answered. But after the murders, the case became even stranger because the killer did not simply escape. They stayed inside the Miyazawa home after the attack. This is the part of the Setagaya case that makes people stop and ask, what kind of person does this? After attacking a family of 4, the killer appeared to spend hours inside the house. They did not behave like someone desperate to get away. Instead, they moved through the rooms, searched the home, opened drawers, went through papers, took some money, used the bathroom, ate food from the kitchen, and even used the family's computer. Imagine the silence of that house. There were no family voices, no children running around, and none of the normal sounds of a home preparing for New Year's. Only a killer moving through someone else's life after ending the lives of everyone inside it. This is what makes this case feel so invasive. The attack was already horrific, but staying afterward made the crime feel even colder. Their behavior could suggest confidence, panic, injury, a disturbing lack of fear, or some combination of all of it. They may have been searching for something. They may have been waiting for the area outside to quiet down. They may have been recovering from the struggle, or they may have been moving without any clear logic at all. Whatever the reason, the decision to stay became one of the strangest parts of the case, and when the killer finally left, they left behind evidence everywhere. This was not a case built around one tiny clue or one partial fingerprint. They left behind so much that police should have been able to build a road straight to them, but nothing traced back to a name. The amount of evidence left behind is one of the main reasons this case is so confusing. The killer left clothing and personal items, including a sweatshirt, a jacket, a hat, gloves, a scarf, a hip bag, handkerchiefs, the weapon, footprints, blood, fingerprints, and DNA. This was not a clean crime scene. It was not the work of someone who carefully wiped everything down. The scene was messy, chaotic, and strangely careless. One of the most important items was a sweatshirt. Police later said it was rare. Only a limited number had been sold in Japan before the murders, and only a small number had been sold in Tokyo. It had a light gray body, light purple sleeves, and a large size. The kind of specific detail that seems like it should lead somewhere. Police traced where it was sold and searched for people who may have bought it, but even that did not solve the case. Then there were the shoes. The footprints were connected to Schlesinger athletic shoes, with a size linked to South Korea. That detail has caused years of speculation. Some people see it as a possible foreign connection, while others think that it supports the idea that the killer may have left Japan after the murders. The killer also left behind a hip bag. Based on the belt length, police estimated that the person may have had a slim build. There were handkerchiefs too. One appeared to have been used with the knife, and another may have been used as a mask. Traces of a men's fragrance, Jacquard Noir, were reportedly found on some items. By the time investigators put the evidence together, they had the outline of a suspect. Male, possibly young, slim, around 170 centimeters tall, likely right-handed, blood type A, possibly injured on the hand and wearing casual clothing that appeared to belong to them. It sounds like a case that should have been solved quickly, but it was not. Despite all of that evidence, the killer's fingerprints and DNA did not match anyone in the police databases. Police knew so much about the person physically, but they still did not know who they were. This is the question that keeps coming back to the Setagaya case. How can someone leave behind DNA, fingerprints, blood, clothing, shoes, and personal items and still not be identified? One possible is simple. The killer may not have had a criminal record. If their fingerprints and DNA were not already in a database, police would have nothing to match them to. They also may have been young, with no record for investigators to find. If they were a temporary visitor, a foreign national, or someone who traveled shortly after the crime, the investigation would have become even harder. It is also possible the person died after the murders. If that happened without them ever being connected to the crime, the evidence could remain unmatched unless a relative, a record, or future DNA technology connects them back. Then there is the most uncomfortable possibility. The killer may have been closer than people thought. They may have blended in, kept living a normal life, watched the case unfold in the news, seen police release their clothing and profile, and still said nothing. That idea alone is terrifying because it means that for years the person responsible may have been walking through ordinary places, surrounded by ordinary people, and carrying the truth of what happened that night. The official framing of the case includes robbery. Money was reportedly taken and the house was searched. On the surface, that gives the case a simple explanation. Someone broke in to steal, the family woke up, the situation spiraled, and the killer responded with violence. A robbery can explain the search through the house, the missing money, and even some violence if the intruder was confronted. But it does not explain easily why the children were harmed, why the violence became so extreme, why the killer stayed so long afterward, or why they left behind so much evidence. So robbery may have been a part of the crime, but many people doubt it was the whole motive. Another theory is that the killer had some kind of personal grudge. Investigators never publicly confirmed that the Miyazawa family had a known enemy, but because of the crime was so severe, people have questioned whether the killer may have had a personal motive. Some have wondered if there was conflict near Setagaya Park, especially because the family's home was close to the park, and public discussions have mentioned possible tension with young people or people hanging around the area. Others have looked at Yasuko's cram school, since she taught students from the home. In theory, that could have connected the family to students, parents, or someone with a complaint. But no public evidence confirms that anyone from the school was involved. There are also theories connected to the school neighborhood itself. The Miyazawa home was in an area being cleared for park expansion, and some people have wondered if land relocation or compensation could have created tension. Again, none of that has been proven. The final theory is that the killer was disorganized or unstable, not necessarily without a plan, but not behaving with normal logic afterward. A person thinking clearly might flee immediately. A person afraid of capture might destroy evidence. A person focused only on theft might take valuables and leave. But this killer stayed, ate, used the bathroom, used the computer, left belongings, left blood, and left biological evidence throughout the scene. That behavior could suggest panic, injury, emotional detachment, or a disturbing lack of fear. None of these theories fully solve the case. Robbery explains some evidence. A grudge could explain the violence. The park theory could explain why that house was chosen. The overseas theories could explain why the evidence never matched anyone, and the disorganized killer theory could explain the strange behavior inside the home. But none of them gave the one thing this case still needs: a name connected to the crime. More than 2 decades later, this case is still full of questions. Why did the killer choose the Miyazawa family? Why did the killer stay so long? Why did they leave so much evidence? And why were the children harmed? Or can it still be solved? The Setagaya family murder case is not haunting because police had no clues. It is haunting because they had so many evidence and yet they did not have a name. And for more than 2 decades, that is where the case has remained. A family of 4 lost, a house frozen in memory, and a killer who left evidence everywhere. Everything except the answers. The person responsible may still be alive. They may be older now, look completely different, live far away, and have told no one. But the evidence they left behind is still waiting. Maybe one day, one fingerprint, one DNA match, one memory, or one person finally speaking up will give this family the justice they may have been denied for so long. Until then, the Setagaya family murders remain one of Japan's most disturbing unanswered questions, a case where the killer left evidence everywhere, but still vanished into the dark. If you want more true crime cases from around the world, especially unsolved cases with strange evidence and unanswered question, make sure to subscribe. And as always, remember, behind every case are real people, real families, and real lives that were stolen. The Miyazawa family deserves to be remembered not only for how they died, but for the lives they lived before that night.